Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the King Leo Show. Let me get my headphones on and check the audio. How's everyone doing tonight? Oh, this light a little bit this way. How's everyone doing today? Let me make sure the audio's okay. We're here a little early, actually. Come on. I want to see the audio. The King Leo Show. Let me get my headphones on. Audio's perfect. How's everyone doing tonight? I'm early. I'm 2 minutes early. Dude, this Piers story is not dying, man. Like, this is some wild shit. Me and my producer are speculating here as to whether Piers made a mistake because it's getting pretty silly at this point, man. We're gonna analyze his hour-long. It's gonna be Inception this episode, dude. We're getting in our Christopher Nolan era on this channel because we are reacting. How you doing, Robert? Robert's here. How are you doing, sir? You're first. Look, this story is not dying, dude. And you guys know me. I've been covering Piers for months. We followed him religiously. So that's why we have to keep talking about this. This is insane. My producer and I are speculating that Piers might have made a major mistake here. We're not sure because the way he's handling this is the usual Piers heel, loving the hate. It's very cool. But also, it's kind of, he seems a little rattled. I've never seen Piers seem rattled before, except for when he took on Meghan Markle, which is the only parallel. Glad you're doing well, Robert. How's Vegas? So it's a pretty big story. It's pretty wild. So with that, I've eaten 4 pomegranates today, dude. I love the winter. That's the only time you get the good pomegranates. Let's do our plugs early. Here is, as usual, our Patreon. I filmed the first video for this, for the King Leo Movie Club, which you'll be able to get with either tier. And it's about the Truman Show. I just have to edit it for tomorrow. Might not be the best in terms of maybe you guys want more talk. It's like 20 minutes long, so I think it's a pretty intricate take on the Truman Show. But for the subscribers, the Patreon patrons, you guys let me know if we can improve it anyway. You know, I'm all for audience feedback. I think that's the best way of improving your stuff. Get your What Would Piers Morgan Do bracelets, which I'm lacking today. Dude, I had to, I'm wearing like a nicer shirt today. I have everything in the wash. My Piers Morgan bracelet, all of my linen shirts. So we have this substitute here. It was good to walk around town with this today because it's like 70 degrees in Miami. It's freezing. And here's our Discord server, which is free. Let me put in the link here in the chat. I'll tag that up top, actually, because it's always broken. It's free, so if you want to join, we have Aria and Audio Vibes in there, or we can crowdsource stuff. So with that, everybody, I think we're ready to get into the show. I feel like I'm stealing. Oh, but you know what? We have Schizo Watch, so I'm not really stealing anyone's time here in terms of people that are really following this story closely. We can do Schizo Watch, so let's cue that. Mr. Elu says 70 degrees freezing. Dude, for me, it's cold. Like I'm out there like, where's the, it's freezing, you know? And up in North Florida where I'm headed in a week or two, it's like 50 degrees. It's cold. So firstly, I'd like to lead with this because this is very important to me as a member of the Venezuelan American community. Well, I'm probably like 1% Venezuelan Chilean American community. Okay. Donald Trump, I think that let's just watch what he had to say about us Venezuelans. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable now because he had me scared there for a bit. I thought I was fucked.
People are wondering
I am
what
the
is
most transparent politician maybe in the world.
a lot of folks are wondering what our goals are in
Sure,
Venezuela.
but I don't want to talk to you about military strategy.
Well, may I ask then, what is your goal in Venezuela? What do you want to see with the actions that you're taking?
Well, one goal is I want the people of Venezuela to be treated well. I want the people of Venezuela, many of whom live in the United States, to be respected. I mean, they were tremendous to me. They voted for me 94% or something.
people are
I'll tell
wondering
you, I am
what.
Thank you. I don't vote, but thank God, dude. It could be a lot worse. This comes off the news that apparently Nicolas Maduro, you guys know the famous DJ, the Latin pop sensation. Let's look him up. Let's see the pop sensation, what he's up to. Apparently, he is. Let's see this here. This is what Saddam had to do if he wanted to stay alive. Apparently, he's trying to come to a deal with Trump, which would involve full amnesty and a plane to Belarus, which, Robert, I remember we were speculating, I think Mr. Elu was too, about where he could go. And Belarus, I hadn't thought of it, but it's an okay country for him to go. I think Lukashenko is pretty safe as far as getting taken out by the Americans. So if it wasn't Russia, it had to be Belarus. And I think he could do that. Venezuelans and Russians, we get along, and Belarusians are basically Russians, right? I don't know if that's offensive in Belarusian culture. I don't want to piss off the Slavics. I'm sorry. I don't know. You know, in Venezuela, there's a conspiracy theory that Stalin was born in Venezuela. That there was a Georgian circus. I'm not fucking with you. This is literally a theory we have. That he was born in Venezuela in the 30s. No, I'm sorry, in the early 20th century. Sorry, late 19th century. As part of a traveling Georgian circus that was actually in Venezuela. And so they think that he might have been Venezuelan. It's like some old folk tale, you know? Mr. Elu says 70 degrees is hot for me. No way. Dude, hot for me is 100, 101. We had a hot summer. I like the 80s and 90s. Mr. Elu says, because Belarus is Russia aligned. Absolutely. But also, look, I wouldn't go to if I'm Maduro, I'm not going somewhere that is not safe, right? I mean, who else is Russia aligned? Like, I wouldn't go to India. India, I guess they're not Russia aligned, but they're non-aligned. And Belarus is kind of an extension of Russia. Lukashenko he can do whatever he wants, but he's dependent on Russia. And it's better than North Korea, right? It's better than North Korea. Robert says, we need that oil for our dollar. Dude, I gotta say, I know you guys don't like this. Oh my God, dude. Steven Crowder reacted to this. Yo, let's do this. Let's watch this. I didn't even see this.
There it is. It's a Latino hip to a Donald Trump dance.
Yeah. I want that track. Watch this.
Listen to me. The people in the United States that listen to me, dialogue, yes. Peace, yes. Respect, yes. Studying. Listen to me.
Dude, Maduro has Steven Crowder cracking up. How is Trump going to do this? He can't kill him. He needs him to resign. He's too silly now. He's too silly.
War no. Never war.
He looks like Venezuelan John Kerry.
He does.
And he thinks he's doing a children's show.
Respect.
Yes. War. No. No war.
Not war.
War. What is it good for? Absolutely.
Dude, he's got Steven dancing? What? The Latin invasion, it happened online. What?
He just hits the moves.
Even did
Please give me respect.
Respect.
Respect, though I
Respect.
fear war. Give me respect.
Yes. And by the way, there's actually this has been, I don't know if it was from him. I think he
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Wow, I found this one now. I'm gonna like this for later. That's so crazy. Wow. I never thought if my mom were in Venezuela in the 70s, I don't think she would have thought that that Venezuela would end up as the leader would end up on Louder with Crowder. That's wild. Okay. Robert says we need that oil for our dollar. If they do this, fucking gas better get cheaper, Robert. They can't do this and not give us cheaper gas. I know a lot of people don't want this to be done, but at this point, I'm resigned. I think it's going to be done. And I want that cheaper gas. Mr. Elu says Maduro has riz. He's rizzing up Steven Crowder. Panda says 6'7". 6'7". Ephra says, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion of what is happening. How you doing, Ephra? But what happens in Latin America, especially Panama closes its canal? Well, Panama's canal, dude, they took that back for real. The Americans, the way they did it with private contractors, not contractors, private companies. So the Panama Canal is safe for America. The only issues with it is poor maintenance, but the maintenance hasn't been that bad. Trump technically, by the way, he didn't do anything too crazy. He just enforced a rule that they have in terms of how the canal works, and the Chinese were encroaching on the influence of Panama. I've been waiting for the Chinese to build the Nicaragua Canal for 10 years. I've been very excited about that, but they haven't done it. So if they closed the canal, though, it'd be pretty bad. Although there are alternatives now, Ephra, because Mexico under López Obrador, they completed the Tren Maya, which is a Mayan train in translation, which is very cool because it's like a terrestrial Panama Canal. It connects both sides of Mexico with a train, so you can dock there, get stuff on the train, and move it across the country in a straight line. It's actually a little bit more efficient than the damn canal, dude. It's pretty crazy. So we'll see. Panda says no need for the canal. Well, I think a lot of people would disagree, man. Sir Francis Drake would disagree. You want to go around Chile? You know, let's see here some Kirk slop that's going on here. Let's see. These are the people who actually love the man. It's a short schizo watch today. Okay. All right. Lots of love for Charlie. We got some more love for Charlie. More AI songs.
Charlie Kirky. I spot the perky. Charlie Kirky. Charlie Kirky.
I love this. This is so fun. I'm gonna like that one. That was Charlie Kirky. That's gonna get stuck in my head. Charlie Kirky. Here I wanted to show, dude. I don't know what it is with the melanated individuals, because it started with Somalians, but now Black Americans are becoming Baudrillardian heroes, dude. I don't know how they're doing this. I don't know if a lack of melanin is leading people to not be postmodern, but these guys are embracing it full on. I commend them for it. Let's see what Black Americans are up to.
Listen, we got a problem here, right? With our government. I don't know if y'all got a government, but our government shut down, right? And they stopped with the food stamps. Ain't nobody gonna be able to feed the bitches or the kids. Well, they just stopped feeding the bitches and the kids in your planet, on your planet.
I don't do planet, I do space. So see,
so you don't live on a planet? Come on, gang, you ain't from a planet?
I'm trying to tell you how this shit go to you. Listen, so I was orphaned. I never was raised on no planet, no shit like that.
Come stop.
Listen to me,
stop. So you out in the
yeah, get it out the mud, out the space, bud. Yeah, that one.
How could you be raised in space?
Listen to what I'm saying, but I was orphaned, so I didn't even know more of me exist. I didn't know more grade like me, shout. You know what I mean? It was me and my brother Zarlat, like we were putting in work, like, ravaging shit.
Right.
And then got there, come to find out I came from a race of intelligent grades. Get what? Everybody had them folks under slavery. The grades were made to make everybody technology until I came along. I stopped all that shit, boy. We finna get paid for this shit. So
how are Black people thinking of this? This is awesome. Hood aliens, deep cut, Homeboys from Outer Space. You remember that show? This is amazing. Dude, while Hispanics and white people were fighting about, I don't know, like immigration, Black people, Somalians, are talking about how Minnesota was promised to them 3,000 years ago, and Black Americans are interviewing aliens from the hood. I mean, dude, this amazed me. Black people are living like 10 years into the postmodern future. I don't know how they're embracing this with such ease, but Baudrillard would be proud.
My people get money on. So get what? They ain't got to worry about no goddamn government. Fuck them folk. We feeding ourselves.
So what's Munyon in space?
I salute Black people. That's freaking wild, dude. The real postmodernists. Will the real postmodernists stand up? Yes, it's Black people and Somalians. guess Somalians count as black. Not really. My producer's from East Africa. He doesn't see it the same way. All right, let's finish with Schizo Watch. Here we have, I saw this, dude. The Anunnaki conspiracy theory, which I grew up with. You know, everyone was saying this. I guess it's making a comeback now.
How would a race of people have ever developed naturally on a planet where their own skin can't protect them properly from their own sun's radiation? So how do we account for the fact that white-skinned people are here on a planet where they should not exist? And once again, it all leads us back to the Anunnaki.
I think we are 10 years away from the Nation of Islam's theory of white people becoming, because it started ironic with people memeing Yaqub. I think that a certain set of white people are going to start saying, yes, we are children of Yaqub. This is getting, dude, this country's going nuts. The schizoization is here. My God, man. The children of Yaqub. The children of Yaqub. Let's continue. Should we show this? I think we'll show this tomorrow. We just got to show this last bit here for Schizo Watch. We got the very sexy Barry Weiss, the sexiest woman on the planet. Don't fuck with Barry Weiss. Interviewing the evil woman, Erica Kirk. I'm actually saving this for Saturday. Tomorrow, dude, I'm blowing up my life. Quitting my job, breaking my leg, getting a cast put in so I can stay all weekend watching this full interview of my wife interviewing this evil woman.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Stop. That's it. That's it. I hate you. You didn't love Charlie. Evil woman. Her eyes are getting crazier by the day, too. Michaela Peterson, Erica Kirk, which one does it for you? I'm having this debate, dude. I'm stopping people on the street. I'm doing a survey. Look at her ice. She had to bring out that iced out ear. Iced out cross necklace. This, as I always say,
we live in hell. We live in the gutter.
The gutter, dude. The gutter. Let's catch up with the chats, and we're going to get to the Nick Fuentes story because, dude, it's not stopping, man. Yeah, I have a healthy fear now because I know we have some groypers in here because I've seen them in the chat replays, man. And, dude, I don't want to piss these guys off, bro. Like, these guys are kind of scary. Like, these are not normal individuals. These are scary people, bro. These people, I don't know. I as a wrestling fan, I think I'm not saying they take it too far, but they're really committed. They're really committed. Let's catch up with the chat and get with it. Then we have more calm chat today. Thank you, so we can read it. Mr. Elo says, AMLO FTW. I really liked Lopez Obrador, man. Lopez Obrador was a really good leader. I don't like Sheinbaum, dude. I'm tired of pretending, like coping that she's okay. She's not okay. I don't like her. Lopez Obrador was a good leader, though. Panda says, that's because I don't know what a canal is. Oh, it's just that's a good question. A canal is an artificial or natural construct in land to let passage from boats, right? That's kind of weird. You have to explain what a canal is. You know, you have to think about it. What is a canal? Aria's here. How you doing, Aria? All my daughter does is sing Charlie Kirk's songs. Torture. Aria's in the pain zone.
Welcome to the pain zone. It's where we live.
Mr. Elu says he's alien Nat Turner. Dude, I guess if there's a Nat Turner here, there has to be one out there, right? Leading the great alien Nat Turner slave revolt. Strabos, all right. Don't talk about my wife that way. This is my wife here you're talking about. Arya says, today Tyler Robinson was in court. Interesting. I saw Arya, but I don't want to cover it yet. I want to get some more information. We have groypers in this chat. I was in the Discord Ari, I sent something in the Discord for you last night, by the way. Check when you get a chance. Yeah, I think we have a lot of groypers here, man. I see them in my comments too. They've been pretty nice. As I always say, I'm a neutral observer. I'm an analyst, but you know, they've been nice. I'm glad that the spirit of the chat hasn't changed, because I had heard a lot of bad things about these groyper types, you know. But they seem all right, you know. Like I don't know. I don't agree with everything, but they seem all right. So look, we're gonna get to Fuentes. This page has been incredibly helpful, called Fuentes Updates. It compiles stuff about him, which has made my job a lot easier for this analysis. This is off topic, but not really. This is Roseanne Barr, the famous mentally ill TV star. I didn't like Roseanne. Dude, I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's because I'm a minority or something. I always resonated with the black sitcoms, Family Matters, The Jeffersons. I didn't really get into the white stuff, you know, like Roseanne. George Lopez, obviously. George Lopez as a Latino is a good one, you know. But she was a big figure for white people at some point, I think. This kind of, you know what really hit me one time? And I know this is going to sound silly. When Jared from Subway was convicted of doing things with children, I didn't realize how much he meant to white people. I'm not hating on white people for resonating with Jared from Subway, but I just didn't know Jared from Subway was like a big figure in the white community, because they were like sad about it, you know? And I was like, isn't that the guy who lost weight because of Subway? And they're like, yeah, he was a hero. And all right. So Roseanne Barr is important. And she's kind of a podcaster, grifter, political type now, which doesn't surprise me. You have to remember, Roseanne Barr was in a car accident, so she does have a bit of a mental illness. And she said this about Nick Fuentes. And dude, as I always keep repeating, man, I don't know who's running the propaganda arm. Look, man, the Venezuelan propaganda is being run by Maduro, and it's doing pretty well. Whoever's running the propaganda arm for Jewish people in America, no problem with them. My problem is the propaganda is bad, dude. Like, it's bad. It is either designed to be the ultimate heel, to take all the hate, because this is you can't put this stuff out there, dude. It looks really bad. Let's see what she had to say about Nick Fuentes after his Piers Morgan interview.
What are you going to do about it, Nick Fuentes? What you going to do about it when I tell you, you little bastard, you're going to be begging the Jews to give you, I don't know what.
Medicine for his Kalman syndrome?
You're going to be begging the Jews to help you, down on your knees and repent like Kanye West, motherfucker. Keep it up. It's a fucking, what do they call it?
Reckoning?
It's a sting. It's a God sting. Are you going to go against the God of Abraham? You're going to shit talk the God of the Torah? Keep it up, motherfucker.
Not just
You'll
the
see
Torah,
what happens.
the Bible, Jesus.
We'll see what happens when you try to overthrow the Constitution of the United States, the Republic of the United States of America. You talk shit about that, saying it ain't good, that we got to have some Catholic theology to replace it. You can kiss my motherfucking rich Jew American ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
Come and debate me. Let's debate.
And I don't even think I have to explain why this is bad propaganda, right? I mean, do we need to repeat this here? Dude, look, man, I'm going to say it now. Jewish people and boomers need to hire consultants to understand how to propagandize properly. These two groups do not understand the internet, it seems. I really did not think, and I'm not saying it from a place of hate, I'm saying it from a place of a film lover, of a narrative lover. I'm a narrative lover, right? Why is it so bad? I would love to see some better, like, propaganda.
You're going to be begging the Jews to give you, I don't know what.
Do I have to explain why that sounds bad? Why you're going to be begging the Venezuelans for them to give you your life back? Does that not sound insane to you?
Down on your knees and repent like Kanye West, motherfucker. Keep it up. It's a fucking,
Okay, Roseanne Barr, I'm sure this is great for the Jewish community. This is so fucking silly, dude. This is... All right, let's move on. We've got some memes here. The Groypers, dude, they're really good at these memes. This is pretty funny. Let's watch this here.
What do you mean by the Grinch is very fucking cool? Because I think he's very fucking on the naughty list.
Okay. And that's a clip. I think he's very fucking on the naughty list. Do you hear yourself?
Yeah,
I mean, can we all grow up?
I do.
Can we all grow
He
up?
stole gifts from 12 million people. He stole gifts from 12 million people.
What is very fucking cool about that? Tell me.
The edits.
Okay. I found out what this... No, I found out because I saw it in chat. You guys are saying W-A-N-G-A-F. I think that's what it is. I found out what it means. All right. I'm sure it'll be in the chat tonight. For any uninitiated, look it up. It's a... I guess it's like a Fuentes reference from his show. Dude, Piers, we went through the humiliation yesterday. I mean, this is just funny, you know? But let's continue. What else are they doing? Okay, because Piers is a cuck, is the meme, because his wife likes to fool around, because the Groypers went into his wife's history. Hun, I done with the Fuentes interview. I brought you something, and the Groypers are taking turns. This is so crass. This is... All is fair in love and war, but damn, dude, these guys are something else. All right, let's continue. We have here, I thought this was important, Brett Cooper, who we've covered here before, left the Daily Wire. We we don't like Ben Shapiro on this channel, or Michael Knowles, or any of these other grifters. And she left, and we were confused as to why. But here she actually stood up for Nick Fuentes. What? In an NPR interview? What? What is Ben Shapiro doing to the people of his organization? Because when they leave, they seem to go buck wild. Let's see what she has to say. Because my understanding is that Ben Shapiro and Nick Fuentes don't get along. I saw a video of them confronting each other in Palm Beach. I've actually stood in the spot where that was. It's a convention center. So let's see what she had to say to NPR of all people.
As someone who draws a big audience yourself, why do you think it is that Nick Fuentes has a following with the kinds of things that he says continuously about Jews?
You know, number one, because so many people have said not to listen to him. And they've said that, you know, he is the equivalent of the Antichrist. And again, when you point at something, you are directing attention to it. And secondly, because he's become a meme. He is huge on social media. People are not watching his show in its entirety. We are seeing clips of him.
This is actually pretty insightful. My producer said the same thing. He said that he thinks that Fuentes has gotten big because of the memification. For any Peter Thiel fans, if there are any here, you know about Rene Girard. You know about the mimetic energy of human movement, of human attraction. So memes are a very powerful thing.
They're seeing the jokes that he made. I saw a thread on X recently. And it was a person who is Jewish, I actually believe lives in Israel, is a Zionist, and said, you know, I sat down and I watched a Nick Fuentes stream in its entirety. And he was like, I am so embarrassed to say that I laughed. He's like, he's a good communicator, he's funny, and I obviously disagree with a lot of the things that he says, and it goes against my, you know, my religion and my beliefs as a Zionist, whatever it is. But he said, but I kind of got it because he's funny. And so I think a lot of people are not actually watching his show in its entirety, but they are consuming his memes and the, you know, the TikToks that people make of him. And that is incredibly, incredibly powerful when it comes to my generation. Because if you can get social media, if you can bring people in through comedy and relatability, that will speak to them. And I think that's the part that a lot of conservatives have not been able to keep up with.
And when Ted Cruz says, this senator who had this exchange with you says, now is a time for choosing. Either you call out this guy or you're a coward and you're complicit. Is he right at all?
I think that as Americans, you should be allowed to listen to whoever you want to listen to. I don't think that I need to sit here and condemn anyone either way. There are things that Nick says that I don't agree with. There are things that Ted Cruz says that I don't agree with. I'm not going to sit here and condemn either of them. I don't know if either of them actually like me. Nick has said that he does not like me at certain times and then he loves me. I was in a movie with Ted Cruz and we have had conversations and then he calls me an angry woman on X. Like I don't take it personally. I'm not concerned. I'm not going to condemn anyone. And I don't think that we should be sitting here telling people what they need to believe or who they need to condemn. We should be focused on positive solutions, on driving a positive future for Gen Z. We're about to be the hugest, most significant voting bloc. And you need to get Gen Z and hold on and provide solutions for them to have it better.
This is the most sober take I've heard on the whole situation. I didn't think it would be Brett Cooper of all people. I always thought she was just some dumb Daily Wire girl, you know? NPR has fallen off a cliff, huh? They couldn't get Brett to get behind a better background and use a better microphone than a DJI. But she looks good. Michaela Peterson or Brett Cooper, huh? What do you guys think? Michaela or Brett Cooper? Or Erica Kirk? But anyway, this is a very reasonable take, whether you agree or disagree with Nick Fuentes, which is... isn't this the marketplace of ideas, bro? Isn't this the free market, bro? You know, shouldn't Dave Rubin interview Nick Fuentes of all people for the sake of the marketplace of ideas? We have to hear the ideas. And trusting Americans as adults to make decisions, especially Gen Z. She's mentioning Gen Z, which once again, I said it yesterday, this Nick Fuentes phenomenon that's been happening is not in a vacuum. We must remember that Zohran Mamdani had a very similar arc. He's a little bit older, he's a millennial, but in the sense of Zohran Mamdani received the same type of attacks as Nick Fuentes, the same types, and sometimes from the same people, you know? And he made it. He won because he got the Gen Z vote. Boomers did not decide the New York election. So Gen Z, it seems like they're free agents. Interesting stuff. I did not expect that from a former Daily Wire person. I see we have a lot of people in the chat, guys. Let me see if I can. I'm going to pin this up here so that you guys know how to get your chat read, which is either a super chat or adding me, please. You can do either one. I'll read them. All right, so pretty wild. All right, let's continue. Here we have some clips from Nick Fuentes' show. And this one here is a modified clip. This is by Jamie Mitchell, who is the founder and president of Gays Against Groomers. Oh my God, dude, do I want to go into a diatribe again about why conservatives are just the worst people? LGB, cut out the TQ. Conservatives are just, dude, this is so fucking silly, man. This is so silly. They are not serious people, the conservatives. Dude, conservatism needs to go away, man. I have no problem with right-wing people or left-wing people. Conservatives, I can't stand. Liberals may be a bit annoying, but I can understand them. A conservative, dude, this is log cabin Republicans all over again. When I was growing up, the president, who was a conservative, he made gay marriage illegal to distract us from a war. And now we have gays against groomers. Dude, no principles, the conservatives. I'm not saying anything against gay people. This is about conservatives. No principles. I thought you hated homosexuals. Whatever. What did she say here? At Nick's command, Groyper started making pedophilic rape comments about Piers Morgan's youngest daughter, who is 13. That's not cool. I'll say that's not cool. Dude, he went after his dad, and I really ruminated on it, and I think it was too far because even he is admitting it. We're going to get into that. See the screenshots in the video. We're going to pause. Anyone on the right mainstreaming these sick fucks should be condemned. They have a problem, rightfully, with Drag Queen Story Hour, but not this. They're scared of his audience and losing their own for counter-signaling him and his followers. It's really so pathetic and cowardly. Such bad writing. Scared, pathetic, cowardly, all in the same thing. Dude, there's so many bad writers out there. Let's see here what Nick had to say and what people did, apparently attacking his daughter.
And he knows what he's doing, saying his name on the air. That wasn't right. And the difference between me and everybody else, you want to go after families, okay, now there's no limits. You want to go after families? We could play that game. Your family's greenlit then too, Piers.
So here we have in a live chat. This is, again, the reaction has been insane. You're going to go to someone's live chat. I'm sure in my live chat, not the regular viewers, obviously, but people have said crazy shit, bro. It's a live chat. What do they say? We are all graping this woman. And I assume this is a tag to his daughter. After the ass attempt. Piers Morgan's youngest daughter.
Family's greenlit as well. So, fuck you and your family. Fuck you and fuck your kids. You bring my dad into it.
This is Piers Morgan's daughter, Elise Morgan. Piers Morgan, can I get her number? Fellas, dude, come on. This is a bit much, but hey, he did bring up his dad. Would you expect anything less from people that are angry and you give them meat, you know? I'm not endorsing this behavior. I wouldn't do this myself. I don't think it's appropriate, but you know.
You're all greenlit as far as I'm concerned. So you can't.
Voluntary conscript Groyper tweeted this. Retired Clipper, former voluntary conscript of Groyper War.
Don't play that. That's BS. I don't like that one bit. And that's really dirty.
Okay, so Gays Against Groomers is mad because of this. Obviously, it's not. Look, I'm not saying it's okay. It's not. Guys, it's those kind of threats. They're illegal for a reason, you know? But all right, let's continue because this doesn't end here. This seems to be the only pitfall in the Fuentes generational run, as they're calling it. This is the only time I've seen them come out here. And I see here that his fans have said, I didn't see one Groyper support that post. In fact, they promptly condemned it and it was deleted shortly after. To think one account represents the view of Nick/Groypers or that he has control over what others say is retarded. Which is it's a good defense. It's a good defense, you know? It's a live chat, dude. What are you going to do? Let's continue here. This, we have to take an aside first because here Piers, I think Piers is also trolling the Groypers to an extent. He launched this here called History Uncensored off of his Uncensored brand with Bianca Nobilio hosting it. Host of History Uncensored on YouTube and Spotify. I don't know. I like to get my history from books, but, you know, I guess this lady knows history. And he released the first episode today, and I don't think it's a coincidence he released it with Nick Fuentes in his repertoire this week because let's see what the subject matter was.
Welcome to History Uncensored with me, Bianca Nobilo.
By the way, the audio quality is terrible. It's not me.
Isaac Newton's secret search for the Philosopher's Stone. Were the Nazis normal? The Slavic vampire panic, a century and a half before anyone had even...
Were the Nazis normal? We're getting real history here, folks. But what I thought was most interesting here is that she had on the great historical scholar, right here. Let's do that.
Forbidden questions. They feel morally dangerous. We've got to ask the questions that we'd rather avoid.
Quiet about it.
Where is this?
All sources to create.
But he was.
Here. Look at this. Look at who she had on to talk about Hermann Göring.
Found early on was a set of X-rays of Hitler's skull.
Well, he was not intrinsically nasty. He really wasn't. But he was clear about how Germany should be shaped.
Right. For my history of Hermann Göring, dude, World War II it has infected the brains of every British and American person. Maybe it's because my family didn't fight in it or something, because they weren't here. But how are you guys still going on about this crap, man? It was almost 100 years ago, you know? I get it. It's the founding myth. But I don't go to Logan from Succession to learn about Hermann Göring. If I want to learn about Hermann Göring, I'll read a book about him. How is this a history show, Piers? This is you interviewing famous people about history. I like some of the Logan movies. I like some of them. What the fuck does he know about Hermann Göring? He played him in a movie? Right, let's interview Zachary Quinto about the financial crisis then. It's ridiculous. So she released this. I think this is important too, because here we had the New York Post reaction to the Nick Fuentes interview. New York Post has a connection to Piers Morgan. He writes a column for them weekly. And it says, infamous woman hater Nick Fuentes admits to being a virgin. Please remember this. I'm just going to show a part of it because we saw this live on Monday, yes. But this is going to be an important point in the video we're going to watch today.
Just to clear up one of the many theories about you, I've no idea what the answer is and you haven't got to answer. But are you actually attracted to women?
I am attracted to women.
You're not gay?
No.
Okay, so that was a huge thing in the interview. Remember the New York Post. This is important. Piers has a connection to them. And let's see here. These are all of Fuentes' replies because I try to go through his show, but it's really long. I haven't watched his show in the past, and it's a really long show, so it's hard to clip stuff. But this guy does the work for me. Thank you, Fuentes Updates, for this. I appreciate it. Here he is talking about when Piers confronted him with this guy, Mr. Finkelstein, about his family history with Stalin and Hitler, which I've explained why that was silly in the past. But let's see what Fuentes' reaction was to it.
Disavow Hitler. You have to say Hitler isn't cool. He said, you need to listen to this old Jewish guy. You have to listen to Finkelstein or whatever. You have to listen to this guy talk about his mom and dad. People are going to say, you know what? We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear another guest. I don't want to hear another foreigner, because that's all it is. That's what American history is. It's Columbus killed the natives, then we enslaved the blacks, then Hitler killed the Jews, then we were racist, and we're all pieces of shit, and we should all hate ourselves, and that's why we need to bring on the immigrants, because we deserve it, because we shouldn't exist, and we're all terrible. And if you're telling us that we have to repudiate, oh, you have to say Hitler's not cool, you can never make jokes and you can never say anything, and you need to feel shame, and you need to make me feel your shame. You need to mean it when you're ashamed. People are going to say, fuck you. Fuck off.
All right. We saw the rest of this clip yesterday, so we're going to go to another one. I'd add a quick point, which I'm confused by. Why do Americans care about Christopher Columbus? I think he landed in Florida for no, he didn't. He didn't land in the United States at all. I know that Italians like him because he was Italian, but why do they even teach that in America? Because in Latin America, Columbus is a big deal. He's a big guy for us, you know? And most people feel fine with Columbus. We don't have Columbus Day. We have the Day of the Race is what it's called. Why do people hate on Columbus in America? He doesn't seem to have much to do with the United States. I guess he discovered the continent, so that's important. But I don't know. I found this Columbus discord weird in America because in Latin America we've had it, but not here. In Latin America, it's so funny because Americans hate Christopher Columbus. You know, Dominican Republic and Spain have been fighting over who has the real Columbus body for the past 10 decades. The past 100 years they've been fighting about this. We kind of venerate Columbus in some ways for founding civilization for us, you know, not saying that we became Spanish or anything. It was a blend of cultures. That's how we see it. Mestizaje, you know? So here we go. Another reaction to Piers that we didn't see yesterday. And these are from the super chats. So we get some more rawness here.
Thank you for spending the entire Piers interview modding and clip farming. Clippers working overtime tonight.
Yeah, I had to clip farm it because, you know, what gives his appeal power is when you treat it like it's serious. And what I mean by that is I've seen a lot of people lose against Piers Morgan because they get psyched out and they treat it like they're in a court of law. They're sort of like meek, and Piers is thundering from the dais like he's the judge and the jury and the executioner, giving these moral pronouncements. And I see a lot of people in the interviews sort of shrink away, and they go, oh, okay. And you have to treat it with contempt. He's a tabloid journalist. He's a bad faith, sloppy tabloid journalist. And I don't say that to be, look, I like the guy. I thought it was a good interview. That's just what he is. And so you can't psych yourself out. You're not in a court of law. You're not on the record. You didn't swear an oath. You're not sitting before a judge. You're on a tabloid show. It's a circus. He brings on the biggest idiots, and then they yell and scream at each other. It's like it's a giant free-for-all.
This is very Baudrillardian and very smart of Fuentes, man. Because this is why we watch Piers here, to deconstruct the show. It seems he deconstructed the Piers Morgan show and appeal before he went on, which I have not seen any other guest do. I don't know if he was trained for this, but or he self-studied. This is very smart. Now we see why he succeeded. Because this is a very good thought process. You should aim to deconstruct anything. And don't take it seriously is usually good advice. You should not take most things seriously. Let me read this chat here real quick from Efra. One critical question. Why does it seem like Nick Fuentes only criticized the next day after the interview? He does not go hard enough when he is a guest. Efra, I think that's probably a practical thing, right? Because if Nick Fuentes criticizes on the show, you always want to be polite when you're on someone else's show because you want to be invited back. You don't want to ruin it for other people. And also you have more frame control when you've left the show because now you're doing it on your show. So I think that's the reason why.
They bring on Rabbi Shmuley and some other person, and then they yell at each other for 2 hours while Piers collects the money, while Piers collects the advertising. And people go on the show and they go, oh, I didn't mean what I said. Oh, I feel sorry. And so going into it, my strategy was, I have contempt. You have contempt for me. I have contempt for you. I'm not under oath. You're not a judge. This is a tabloid show. This is a joke. So that's where I saw a lot of people go wrong. Because I've seen people fail miserably on his show. It was because they kind of gave up the frame. And they're trying to win over Piers. Like I said, like he's the judge. They're pleading with him. You can't plead. It's like, this is a tabloid. You don't have moral authority over me. Who are you? So you turn it into you clip farm. You turn it into a silly thing. You have as much contempt for it as he has for you. And you match the energy.
Problem solved, sent $25.
Very, very smart, dude. He studied his opponent. Very smart. I gotta give it to him, guys. Whether we agree or disagree politically, this is a very smart tactic to come out on top. Let's continue. We have him here, another super chat that was clipped.
How about another joke, Piers? What do you get when you cross me mum with really fucking monster Hitler? You get at least 6 million.
That was awesome. When he says, I don't think he's really fucking cool. He's a really fucking monster. That was like, oh my, I just had to stop. I'm like, do you hear yourself? It reminds me of that clip. Remember when, who was it that went on TV and the guy was complaining about the child separation at the border? And the guy said, womp, womp. And the leftoid goes, how dare you? How absolutely dare you? It was like flashbacks. I'm getting notes of Megyn Kelly. All of that interview had the same tempo as like, you've called women you don't like slobs, pigs, dogs. That had the same energy as, it's certainly a good thing that we don't have a president with the temperament like Donald Trump in charge, or whatever the thing was from Hillary Clinton, because you'd be in jail. How dare you? How absolutely dare you? That's like a deep cut. That's from 2018. Remember that? How absolutely dare you? He's really fucking a botster. He's a botster and he incinerated. Shut up, dude. How many? And he kept going on and on and on. Like, we get it. Hitler is bad. Thank you.
This made me very disappointed in Piers, actually. Because what Nick Fuentes is describing here, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, is that he was trained to deal with Piers by watching Trump. And Piers and Trump are friends from like 20 years back. He's interviewed Trump multiple times. How did he not know that Trump's disciple here, even though he's critical of Trump, Mr. Fuentes, would come with the same tactics as Trump? It's obvious in retrospect. Genius, dude. This is very smart. Very, very smart. Let's continue. We have here Nick's reaction to when Piers attacked his father, which will come into play later.
Piers put a lot of pressure on you at the start. Some sneaky sidelines, but you got your edge back and held it down, and it was nice to hear a real WAN be so firm in himself regardless of how indefensible some clips may seem. Fodder. I thought Piers was going to say you act like a pavement prowling, banana munching, dirty narcissistic darkest nigga for a sec.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was like really antagonistic, but in the beginning, he caught me off guard. That was so shitty what he did with my father. Because he knows what he's doing. He says my dad, he doxed my dad too. He says my father's name and then says, oh, your dad's racist and this is his name.
By the way, I'm sorry for the N-words, guys. I can't download these and take the N-words out. You know, I hope YouTube doesn't get mad about it, but not trying to make foul language trite.
That was low, and everyone knows what he was doing there. And now you put a target on my dad. I hope you know that. So I hope you're happy with yourself. And that is out of line, actually. Family should be off limits. I'm in the arena. You want to call me a racist? I'm the one doing the show. My father's not a public figure. He's not political. That's the only part that did bother me because that is bullshit. And I won't get mad. You can attack me all you want. I don't care. But, you know, my father, leave him out of it. He's a civilian. And that was low. I mean, you should know better than that. You're on television. You've got 1 million+ followers on Twitter. You're a major celebrity. You're naming a random private person. And he knows that he's inciting political attacks on my dad and my family and my parents' fucking livelihood. My parents have cancer. They're fucking sick. And they're at retirement age. And they're working their fingers to the bone trying to retire, trying to fucking stay alive. And he got douchebag calling him racist. And
okay, this gets personal here. But this also explains the strong reaction. If you have any parents with chronic illness, I can say from personal experience that it's a tough thing to deal with. And I can't blame Piers. Piers probably didn't know. I didn't know that Nick Fuentes' parents have cancer. That's unfortunate. I don't wish that on anyone. And obviously that's going to, I think that actually makes it worse for Piers in the sense of you're trying to bring someone into the conversation that it's already inappropriate. And Piers admits this today. We're going to see it. But someone that's sick, someone that someone has a real relationship with, that they're worried about their health. You know, so it explains Nick Fuentes' not emotional reaction, but actually his lack of reaction, because that would make you probably so disgusted that you won't even answer the question. Because why would you? I had everything. How you doing, man? How's New York? Is Nick Fuentes a wizard now? Dude, this guy is a sorcerer. I don't know how he acquired these skills, but he definitely has skills. This guy has his fucking skills, dude. He has skills. He beats our wizard on this channel, our master wizard. You know, we love Piers Morgan on this channel. Piers Morgan still has value, of course, because he always predicts elections right, and he follows trends pretty closely. But damn, like he gave him a whooping. I think the grand wizard. No, I think that's from the KKK. The master wizard of the world right now is Nicolas Maduro, but Nicolas Fuentes is close behind him. You know, two Hispanic guys. So here we have Fuentes' reaction to the Fuentes fatwa, as I'm calling it, the Fuentes fatwa, or as the Groypers call it, the Groyper war he unleashed onto Piers Morgan. And when they found out that his wife, she may get down with some other guys, you know. So let's see what he had to say. How did Ayatollah Fuentes feel at the results? It's literally the Ayatollah when Salman Rushdie got shot. You know, like he's like, let me see what you've accomplished for me.
Any feminized society or female-dominant culture will collapse. Do you really think that the free love generation will ever admit that over 60% of businesses in South Vietnam were run by women? Or that the men spent nearly half of all their money on the black market? Follow the money. Dominoes will fall. God bless.
It's a good point. Well, and I didn't even know that Piers Morgan was such a cuck. That explains everything. Since the Piers Morgan interview, we found his wife's Instagram. It's the most humiliating thing I've ever seen.
Look at that use of we. This is, and I'm not using this pejoratively because on this channel, we don't really judge new religious movements or colloquially known as cults. This is very culty. And everyone's in a cult, dude. You have an iPhone, you're in the Apple cult. Nowadays, everything's a cult, you know? IKEA's a cult. Yeti microphone is a cult. And when you have a cult, that's why Scientology works, dude, because these people, they have each other's backs. And the leader here, Mr. Fuentes is he has his followers' backs. He's endorsing what they did. And that makes it even more effective.
Piers Morgan's wife, I kid you not, she's on Instagram repeatedly posting with other men and insinuating that she's having sex with them. Wurzelroot posted it on Twitter. She says something like, when my husband is away, Mr. Suds comes out to play. And it's a picture of a giant black guy in a Speedo washing her car. There's another one. She's taking a picture pointing at a guy's dick and implying she's going to suck the guy's dick. That's two. That's two of the There's a news story that said she went on a 6-week sabbatical from her marriage with Piers to go have sex with other men. He joins her on a talk show on television with rubber gloves saying, honey, I just finished my chores. I love powerful women. I should have done my research. I didn't even think to do that because I'm not that guy. He asked me to come and do the show. I did it. But this is a guy that's attacking me for being an incel. This is the guy that's telling me, well, you're just a dinosaur, huh? Okay, what are you, buddy? What are you, a cuck? I mean, I had his number. I said, it's Chads and incels that know what women are. It's beta male orbiters like you that don't seem to get it. He's on his second marriage. He's getting cucked by his wife. It's insane. No wonder. So typical. Some big, fat, old white guy who's a total pussy-worshipping simp, and his wife is out there publicly humiliating him in front of God and everybody in the whole world. And he's going to go on TV and give me his position on women? Who would be listening to you? Do you think any man wants to be in your position? Absolutely not. Do you think young men would take advice from you about women? Why? So we could be humiliated? Are you kidding me? People would rather be a 27-year-old virgin than be 60 years old on your second marriage, getting ritualistically humiliated by your wife, talking about cheating on you with every and any man that she meets. Obviously. That's why the young people are finished, because we look at the boomers and say, fuck that. And I can't speak from experience because this is not the case with my parents, but I know for a fact a lot of the young men resent the older generation because this is the structure. All of the young men, their dads are all weak. You know, my dad is a tough guy. He was like a street tough in the old days, and he's ethnic. You know, he's Mexican. He's half Mexican. His dad was like a drug addict. Okay, he's from the streets. He's an OG. It is the story of most of these Gen Z guys, and even Gen Alpha now too. Their parents are Gen Xers, millennials, and they're total pussies. And where a lot of the resentment comes from is the young men look at their dads as these like weak, emasculated, soft-spoken. They're not men. And they see the way their mothers walk all over their dad. And that's where the resentment comes from. That's true in a lot of cases. You know, it's not to say that these young guys, I'm sure they love their parents, but that is the arrangement because that is the mantra of these older generations. You know, in the old days, the men were men. They were fucking dangerous. The boomers, the silent generation, the greatest generation, they would beat their wives.
Okay. All right. We'll stop there. But what's interesting is that Nicholas Fuentes has made Piers Morgan into a talisman of the boring boomer father that, you know, I'm Hispanic, dude, and I grew up around Hispanic people. So I don't really have much experience with this. You know, most of my cohort, it's Miami, dude. They're all immigrants. So the guys are, I guess, what he's calling ethnics and tough guys, you know. So I'm not really familiar with this family structure. I didn't know it was common in America. But making Piers a talisman for a symbol of the problem with older boomer men, whatever the reason is, I have my own issues with older boomer men and Gen X. This is really something. This is something where people will now associate Piers as that symbol. This is high-level Baudrillardian sorcery. This is very, very, it's cruel, but it's smart. I Hate Everything says, I can't believe my goat Piers is into that. Dude, I can't believe it either, bro. I'm not. Look, I'm a pretty down the road guy. I'm a pretty normal guy. But having that level of public disrespect in your marriage seems to be an issue, you know? And finally, we have this clip here before we get to the Piers reaction, which is insane to all of this. Here is a little bit more on Piers from Nick.
Piers, put down the video game and go get laid. Stance. I don't think he understood the power when you said your DMs are filled with women, with probably way more traffic than his wife's Instagram DMs, which is saying something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how it's relevant. People are so fascinated by my sex life or my lack of a sex life. You get that from Piers Morgan. Oh, well, you need to get laid. You haven't had sex. And that's where everybody goes. And it's so telling that you get that from liberals, right? That just goes to show how much liberals actually hate human beings. Because liberals are always out there saying, you know, you can do whatever you want and don't shame anybody and blah, blah, blah. And then somebody like myself, I mean, I'm a very atypical person. I don't make any bones about that. I am an atypical person. I am a weird guy. I am a bit of a freak. And I don't pretend not to be. I could go and get a girlfriend and get married and I could be above suspicion of anything and everything that I'm accused of on that front. But I am who I am, and I'm authentic and everything. And I'm open about my thoughts on that, my personal deal. You know, I would like to get married, but I don't really want to, you know, all that sort of stuff. And you say that, and liberals are the first one to jump down your throat and engage in then the sexual humiliation. Oh, he can't even get laid. And so it's like, well, which is it? Which is it? So are you guys in favor of people should be able to live their lives how they want, and we should be free thinkers and, you know, all that kind of stuff? Or whenever, and it just goes to show, everybody fundamentally believes exactly the same thing about all this stuff. It's instinctual, it's biological. They will always fall back on emasculating, shame. They always fall back on those kinds of things. And it's very telling. And I know that that's a cope. I know that sounds like a cope, but it's true.
I think we can end there for time because we have to get to the actual Piers reaction. The reason I thought that last clip was relevant is because I picked up on this where I said, dude, the gay bashing is becoming from the liberal side now. I said that probably a few weeks ago. And it seems like Nick Fuentes has noticed it also for straight people. So I guess we're back to the 2000s, everybody. The woke is actually dead, as Piers Morgan says. So here we're going to watch. Dude, this is ridiculous. First of all, I have to say this because I had a comment that was like, this was an interview. No one can beat anyone in an interview. This video is titled, "He'll Live to Regret It. Reaction to Nick Fuentes versus Piers Morgan interview with Dr. Phil." The actual interview that Piers did is titled, "What a Crock of Shit, Piers Morgan versus Nick Fuentes full interview." When you put the word versus in, that implies that it's combat. For anyone that, dude, someone said this, and this is my favorite insult, is English your first language? Because it's not my first language. My first language is Spanish. But I seem to understand English better than a lot of these people who can't fucking read. It's in the title. It's in the title. It is combat. And we're going to watch this. It is Piers at his worst. I have not seen Piers give such a lackluster performance responding to Nick Fuentes. This was kind of embarrassing as a Piers fan for me to see. Let's just start it and watch. It's really something, man.
My family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word.
Do you think you grew up in a racist environment? That your father was inherently racist?
You want to go after families? We can play that game. Your family's greenlit then too, Piers. Fuck you and your family.
You did bring up the guy's dad, and you said his name. This is a person who has had people attempt to assassinate him.
The most powerful role model in any child's life is the same-sex parent.
You, I think, are the only interviewer so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable.
Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. The reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid.
It's an okay intro as far as Piers goes. Usually, that's fine. Nothing wrong with the intro.
Just about everybody else has had their say on my interview with Nick Fuentes this week, with the notable exception of me. There's been columns in newspapers and magazines, endless hours of YouTube commentary, hundreds of thousands of posts on X, plus the inevitable swarm of groyper weirdos following me everywhere online. All of that was to be expected. Fuentes is highly controversial and increasingly influential, which is why I invited him on in the first place. What I didn't really expect was the frenetic and compulsive pearl clutching from Fuentes and his troll army, who ironically accused me of doing exactly the same thing during the interview. Fuentes and his followers were particularly upset about this. There was an episode of your podcast where you talked about your father, Bill Fuentes, and how he wouldn't take the family, including you, to certain restaurants because he believed they were associated with African Americans. We would be deciding where to go to eat, you said. What are we going to do for dinner tonight? It was a running joke. Me and my sister would say Applebee's, and my dad would say we would never eat at Applebee's. Not in a million years should you be caught dead, Fuentes said about Applebee's. Go to a different restaurant, a local restaurant. No Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And you also shared another story about your family and restaurants. It said, before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that we're not allowed to say. So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast, is do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist, and that thought process moved to you? Well, Fuentes responded by getting very worked up and directing his trolls to harass me and all my family, all very predictable.
You want to go after families? We could play that game. Your family's greenlit then too, Piers. Your family's greenlit as well. So, fuck you and your family. Fuck you and fuck your kids. You bring my dad into it?
But Nick, if you clutch those pearls any harder, they will bruise the back of your neck. To be clear, again, this wasn't a low blow or a trap or an attack on Bill Fuentes. It was a question about a story which I thought could be insightful. And it was a story that Nick Fuentes decided to share on his own show to his own followers.
My dad refused to allow us. My dad would not let us go. That was a common joke. We would be deciding where to go to eat. You know, what are we going to get for dinner tonight? And it was a running joke that me and my sister would say, Applebee's, and my dad would say, no, we will never eat at Applebee's. So, yeah, so not in a million years she'd be caught dead. Go to some other place. Go to a different restaurant. Go to a local restaurant. So yeah, no Applebee's, no Red Lobster. That is commonly known as black fare. And before me and my sister were born, my family had a saying about Olive Garden that contains the N-word that, you know, we're not allowed to say, that my parents wouldn't say around me and my sister. about Olive Garden, its relationship with black people. It contains a bad word, contains a naughty word in there, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But yeah, but we don't eat there.
So that's Nick Fuentes, in his own words, telling the story that he objected to me asking him about. Well, one of my objectives for the interview was to find out a bit more about this guy who's at the center of a big raging storm amid the conservative movement in America right now. Is he just performative, outrageous, and attention-seeking? Or does he really believe the most incendiary things that he says? And if the answer to that question is yes, how did he get there? Having interviewed people for nearly 4 decades now, I find their upbringing is almost always influential one way or another. And if
This intro is so out of character for Piers. First of all, he stammered. He never stammers. Secondly, these clips are playing for way too long. It's kind of an attempt to excuse himself. But most importantly, to note is that he has not apologized and he thinks completely wrong to be angry. Now, normally I would say Piers is a great heel. He loves the hate. He loves the hate. But this is so uncharacteristic of him. We've watched him on this channel for a year at this point. I have never seen him do something like this. It strikes me as very weak. And look, Piers He loves the hate. He loves getting hated. But to this point where he's laying out a case like a sort of defense attorney, the great wizard, man, this is a problem. Like this smells of cope, and it's going to get worse later in the interview.
If you don't want other people to talk about it, then why talk about it very publicly yourself? There are many more interesting points of debate from this interview, from crime stats and racism to generational divides to Holocaust denial. We get to all of them, and will do with my panel shortly. But this one small exchange has, for me, really made a bigger point. What Fuentes and his fans hate most is any accountability. It's all about speaking unchallenged into an echo chamber where there's a whole movement built on directing blame and anger onto everybody else. Girls don't like you because they're difficult. Your neighborhood's in decline because of the black people. The world is corrupt because of the Jews, and so on. Now, he's angry about this story being shared because, in fact, he shared it himself. It wasn't a game or a trick to question Nick Fuentes about the words of Nick Fuentes. That was the whole point of the interview. Well, I'll be joined by a stellar panel in a moment.
He spent 5 minutes not apologizing, saying he did the right job, that this is all completely appropriate. I've never seen him apologize. I've seen him say he was wrong, but do something like this, 5 minutes of one technicality in the whole interview where he's addressing it and proving that he's right. The lady doth protest too much, Piers. And can you guess what he's going to do for the first guest? Because this I have never seen Piers do before, except for in the Fuentes interview, and I think it's pathetic. I hate everything says, you think Piers met his match? Dude, I think he might have. Because this WWE is getting a little UFC.
We'll begin with Dr. Phil, host of The Real Story. Dr. Phil, great to have you back on our sense.
Dr. Phil. Piers Morgan, we might not watch the whole thing with Dr. Phil because it's ridiculous, spends 10 to 20 minutes with Dr. Phil psychoanalyzing Nick Fuentes. When you're entering into the realm of psychoanalysis, when the other person isn't there, I think everyone looks down on this. Everyone sees this as really, really gross. The last time this was done, they did it to President Trump in 2016. I remember this. A group of psychologists came out and diagnosed him with a bunch of disorders. And they broke away from the American Psychological Association to did it. And everyone they were really uncomfortable with it. You're not supposed to psychoanalyze people. This is below low. This is an attempt at humiliation with Freudian tricks. It's really, really silly. And to bring Dr. Phil to do it on, well, that's good ratings. Dr. Phil gets a crowd, I guess. But this is pathetic, Piers. Like, this is Piers, my boy.
Say the M word. Go on.
Piers. Let's see.
As always, what do you make of Nick Fuentes?
Well, a lot. And I first have to say, I commend you for doing this interview. I know some people say, why would you platform this person? I think it took courage for you to put him on. And I'm glad that you did, because if there's not an adult in the room to ask the hard questions and hold these type of voices accountable, then they just run unchecked.
Right.
And you saw what happened here.
Look at this. He brought Dr. Phil on to congratulate himself. There's not, dude, imagine if a fighter did that after they lost. That's too far, even for a heel, dude. Even for a heel.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time doing trial science work in the litigation arena, and we always say your story goes a lot better if you're the only one telling it. And that's what people mean when they talk about echo chambers and living in a bubble. And what you did was hold him accountable for what he says.
Right.
And of course, that's not near as much fun when a narcissist is not in a room full of people that are nodding along with them. And you just said, listen, I'm not going to introduce anything new here. I'm going to ask you about what you said and let you explain what you said. And there was no ambush here. He could have predicted with great accuracy what you were going to ask. You just ask it in a very critical thinking sort of way, and that was very uncomfortable for him because someone was holding him to account. And thank you for doing that, because his opinions that he's spreading are ugly, they're corrosive, they're deeply un-American, and that's the psychology of extremism. I think that he is not empowering young men; he's manipulating them. And Piers, I'm going to take a breath here in a minute and let you comment on what I'm saying, but this is the same algorithm that social media uses. If people like something, they click a little bit. If you can get them worked up about something, they click a whole lot. And that's the same strategy as the algorithm that makes social media so toxic. And that's what he does. And you called him out on that in a very transparent and fair-minded way. You let him tell his story, but you ask about some of the key points.
Yeah, and
that is a full 3 to 4 minutes of Dr. Phil patting Piers Morgan on the back. That is pathetic, Piers. That is pathetic. Piers, that is pathetic. We're going to skip the next part because this psychoanalyzing crap is so distasteful. Let's watch a little bit of it. I hate when people do this, dude. If anyone's ever done this to you, you understand how gross it is. Doesn't matter who you are. You are not in a therapy session. You are not my psychologist. Who are you to tell me who I am to someone else? This is the lowest thing I've seen Piers do, dude. Let's watch a little bit, but I need to skip it for time, but also because it's gross.
What was really interesting was I don't think he expected that anecdote about his father to come out so early, or if at all. So he looked a bit taken aback. And the reason I asked it was very specific. I said to him, in all my experience of interviewing people, and you've interviewed as many as I have, Phil, if not more, I really do believe that the vast majority of people are a product of their environment. And if Nick Fuentes, through his own story about his parents there, and particularly his father, if he grew up in an environment of overt racism, with his father saying, I'm not taking you to certain restaurants because they're associated with black fare, then you can begin to understand why he himself has become overtly racist and indeed is proud of it. So to me, it was a very relevant...
You are not a psychotherapist, and Dr. Phil is a TV host. That is so gross, dude. It is not even below the belt. It's just gross. We're going to skip this because they go on for 20 minutes. 12 minutes psychoanalyzing someone that's not there. If you ever do that to some dude, like that's really low. That's really low. That to me is, imagine doing that to someone. Imagine doing that to someone. It doesn't matter who it is. So we're going to go to the panel and we're going to go into our circus here. I Hate Everything says, do you think that Dr. Phil met up with Piers' wife? Oh, all right. All right. Let's get to the panel who has some familiar characters.
Well, joining me on the panel now is Warren Smith, critical thinker and founder of the...
I hate this guy. We did a whole segment on this guy. This guy, I really don't like him. But notice how he's dressed. Notice the book backgrounds. This is clearly a straight man on the panel. One of the people who is the voice of reason. This guy is insufferable. Insufferable. He went after my guy, Thaddeus Russell. Insufferable moron. The only reason that he is where he is because Elon Musk is the stupidest billionaire we've ever had. The dumbest billionaire. Because he reposted this guy doing critical thinking on why fucking Hogwarts isn't transphobic. J.K. Rowling. This is the bane of my existence. But he's a straight man here. Let's put personal biases aside.
Secret Scholar Society. Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible.
Andrew Wilson, who's here in all black in a hoodie. He actually plays a straight man role here. I don't like Andrew Wilson, as I've said in the past. I think that I'm glad he got owned by that little girl, as he would call her. But he plays a straight man role and falls into the Fuentes camp, which is interesting because the two straight men he brought on fall into the Fuentes defense camp.
Mark Lamont Hill, host of Bet News, and
we have Mark Lamont Hill, who's also a straight man. He's not in a suit, but he has a nice background, good camera quality, and he takes an interesting POV. No one here really fully supports Piers except for one person.
Influencer Harry Sisson.
And that's Harry Sisson. A lot of people dislike this guy. I'm personally not a fan. I don't really get what the appeal is. If I wanted to listen to a liberal explain to me whatever the liberal equivalent of Heritage Foundation talking points is, I would put on Robert Reich or Thomas Friedman. I don't see why this guy has appeal, but he's supposed to be the voice of reason. He's the only one that sides with Piers in this.
And also joining us a little later will be Glenn Greenwald. All right, Harry Sisson, we're in the unique position, I believe, where you and I may have a slight agreement here about all this. So what was your view of the Fuentes interview?
Piers, I don't think it's a slight agreement. I think it's a full agreement. First and foremost, I do want to start off by saying I thought the way that you conducted the interview was fantastic. I watched the entire thing, and you I think, are the only interviewer so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable and not let him get away with a lot of his hateful views. I loved how you played the clips side by side and made him defend it on the record. So I want to give props to you there. I thought it was really well done. And I watched the entire thing. And I was trying to decide, similar to you, does Nick Fuentes actually believe these things, or is he doing it for the money? Is it performative? And I
notice what he's done is congratulated Piers and trying to shift the conversation away from the interview, which Piers won implicitly in his statement is that, and he's trying to move the conversation to whether he should be platformed at all. Trying to skip the question is something.
I might disagree slightly with you. I think it's both. I think he does believe some of these things, and I think some of it's performative. I think when he tried to moderate himself, that's performative. But the more hateful views that, as you mentioned, when the mask kind of slipped, that's what he truly believes. You could tell that he was trying to moderate himself when, as you were talking about with Dr. Phil, talking about the Holocaust. He said, I believe it was the Holocaust, at least 6 million Jews. He said that, but then simultaneously claimed that Hitler is cool and that he liked his uniforms and the music and things like that. So, no, I think Nick Fuentes broadly is a sad, insecure man. I think he's a liar. I think he's a grifter. And I think you exposed that in the interview.
Andrew Wilson, what did you think?
Well, I was just watching your previous segment, and I thought that the framing there was a little off. So I've always appreciated coming on the show and you letting me get my viewpoints out. But I do take some issue with your framing. You did bring up the guy's dad.
And immediately Andrew Wilson, which I'll commend him for, even though I'm not a fan, says, no. We're not having this other conversation yet. We just had to sit through 20 minutes of bullshit psychoanalysis. If I'm going to be on the show, I'm going to be polite, but I'm going to give my views on what you did, which I did not expect from him. I really don't like this guy. I think he's very annoying, but that's pretty good.
You said his name.
Yeah.
And when you said it on the air that way, this is a person who has had people attempt to assassinate him. They have come to his house, shown up at his door, and tried to kill him. And that's on video happening. And so when you said the guy's name and then try to tie it into racism, I know that you know this, Piers, but the left broadly will do these harassment campaigns. These harassment campaigns are designed specifically to incite the violence of many of their mentally ill followers.
Andrew, let me just say,
and that's what they do.
Yeah, let me just say, if I had my time again, I wouldn't have said his father's name.
We just spent 20 minutes of Piers Morgan saying he did nothing wrong. He said he did nothing wrong. And now we have a non-apology apology. If I could do it again, I wouldn't say his name. Piers, I'm very disappointed. Because if he had just not apologized, I would respect it. I would respect it because Piers is a master wizard. He knows how to get people on side. This is pathetic. And this is why I say he's really losing here, dude. This is sick. This is bad WWE. This is you have to leave for the WWF because this is too much. You've got to leave the ring, man. When you apologize in this grifter land, that's when it's over. Why are you apologizing? You just spent 20 minutes telling me that what you did was perfectly well done. You played an uncomfortably long clip of Nick Fuentes for context, and now you're telling me that you weren't wrong. For the analysis we do on this show, what's important here is, dude, once this was said by Piers, I think it's over, man. Whether he's doing this on purpose or not, Piers here has conceded. He's conceded. He lost the debate. And Nick Fuentes is ascendant, for better or worse. If you apologize, it's over. And he just apologized. He said he would not do it the same way. And he folded with one piece of pushback. One piece of pushback. Piers.
Say the M word. Go on.
I thought we were going to have you tell us the next election results. I'm even doubting that now, dude. I'm doubting that because this is pathetic.
But I would have still told the anecdote because I thought it was really important to Nick Fuentes.
The anecdote's not the relevant part.
But the anecdote is relevant.
Yeah.
The anecdote is relevant when he immediately tried to attack me for ambushing him with a story that he told himself on his show. I mean, look, if I told a story like that...
But that's not what people are upset about.
No, I understand.
They weren't upset about the anecdote. They were upset that you specifically said the guy's name after Fuentes has had these assassination attempts on him.
To be clear, if I had my time again, wouldn't have said his father's name.
Another apology. 2 apologies in the row. That's why I skipped Dr. Phil. It's a waste of time. You just apologized twice. Piers, you've lost your edge, dude. You lost your edge. This is his new Meghan Markle. He had a similar issue with Meghan Markle, and he came out on the bottom with that. Meghan Markle's rich in fucking Hollywood now. This is pathetic. This is pathetic of you, Piers. I'm sorry, man, but you know that I'm your strongest soldier. I can't defend this. When Piers Morgan apologizes, we have a problem.
Notwithstanding the fact you can find it in 2 seconds on the internet, right? So it's not like it's not difficult to find. But I do think it's important that anecdote, to me, was potentially very relevant to why Nick Fuentes is the way he is about racism, for example, because he was telling a story that cannot be construed, Andrew, any other way than his father was directing them away from restaurants because of his racist views about the people that go in them or run them. And it couldn't be seen any other way.
I get that. I get the point of bringing the anecdote up, but that wasn't what looked to me like what was making these guys so angry. Was not the anecdote itself, but the fact that you said the guy's name, referenced it as his dad, and then this guy's had assassination attempts.
Yeah, but the story was him telling the story.
By the way, hang on. A lot of the first assassination,
loss of frame control. Piers never does this. He got hanged on. Piers, his catchphrase, his hang on. He got hanged on by Andrew Wilson. Piers, but where's the sound? Where's the sound? We lost a great one, dude. I hate everything says Nick is the new wizard now, dude. I don't want to crown him. I love Piers, but it's too bad. It's too bad, Piers. You got hanged on.
Attempt happened because of the your body my choice thing that he put that tweet out, and people began doxing his address and his family's name, and that's why they showed up to kill him. So the guy's grievance there, I think, is legitimate.
Yeah, but I think it's important that his grievance wasn't just that I named his father, which again is a matter of public record. You can find it anywhere, although I wouldn't have said it if
immediate coaxing. You can find the name online, but I wouldn't say it again. So why are you saying you can find it online? Is it an excuse? An apology and an excuse? Oh my God, Piers. Piers!
If I had my time again, because I don't want to attack his family for the sake of attacking his family. It was when he tried to frame it as an unfair attack on his family, when I think actually the story that he himself put in the public domain was potentially very relevant to why he is the way he is. I as a journalist...
Well, how he was framing it was you're bringing this up and name doxing specifically so that you can rally people into a harassment campaign. That's how he saw it.
No, but that wasn't... Yeah, okay, but just to be clear again, that was not my intention.
That was not my intention. 3 apologies, dude. 3 apologies.
Intention was to ask him, in all sincerity, if you grow up in an environment at home where there is clear racism that you have discussed yourself on your own show very like unarguably, you can't listen to the clip. I played it earlier without realizing that's what he's saying. Then, is that relevant to the way he is? Let me bring in Mark Lamont Hill here.
And immediately changing the subject. This is important too because Piers is friends with Trump. Trump does not respect this shit. Piers might lose some of his influence with Trump because of this crap. Trump does not respect weakness. You know that. He hates losers. 3 apologies. Trump never apologizes. Never, ever, ever. Piers should know better. He should know better. And now we're going to get less important fucking content from Piers because he's too much of an idiot to have done this properly.
I mean, Mark, I didn't do that lightly. I had decided before I did the interview that I would do a lot of research into this. I would find all the clips that I felt were the most incendiary things he'd said on the record, and I would ask him and push him about them in a way that I don't think anyone else has really done. And it would be interesting to see the way he responded. And if you're going to talk to Nick Fuentes, who openly admits to being a racist, he did it again with me in the show, that anecdote to me was pertinent to why he may have shaped those views. What do you think? Was it unfair?
I think the anecdote was entirely fair and necessary, particularly since, the first part of the interview was very much about his biography. It was very much about what shaped him. He himself volunteered information, even in that interview, about his parents, about how they came together, about, the loss of their fathers, etc. All that to me is fair game. I agree that invoking his father's name in that moment was too far. I hear you saying
Mark Lamont Hill doesn't agree with Piers. I would have thought he brought Mark on to agree with him, to say it's only one guy on his panel. He's losing his touch, dude. On his circus, he only has one guy who agrees with him. It's 4v2. Even Mark Lamont Hill, who I'm a fan of, I like Mark Lamont Hill. He says you shouldn't do that. Even Mark Lamont Hill. Piers, buddy, you have not been sleeping right, my man. You got to take a break.
If you could do it again, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because I do have some ethical and moral reservations about doxing. I don't think it's wrong, for example, if someone does something awful in public and it's relevant to the public interest to track down their job and notify their job. But that's not the same thing as tracking down every private citizen just because we think they're racist or sexist or anti-Semitic or homophobic. I may think you're that thing, but you have a right to be that thing, even though I think it's awful. And I don't think you should live without safety because of that. Now, there's a bigger question, Piers, that you raised at the top of the interview, and it's come up again in the media, and that is, should you even be talking to this guy?
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, Piers, I've struggled with this. I interview controversial people. I sit down with people who people say don't platform them, and I take seriously your point that they already have a platform. And I'm not making them big. I'm not drawing attention to them. They already have the attention. They're just not being questioned or challenged on that platform. I concede that point. I agree with you fully. The problem with this guy, the problem with Nick Fuentes in particular, though, to me, is he's such a chameleon, and he moves in such a way that I'm not sure holding him accountable matters to his base. And he does just enough to look moderate and normal and reasonable that I think he'll do.
And here Mark, after disagreeing with Piers, is trying to shift the conversation again to what Harry wants to do, which I think that was Piers's agenda. He got these two guys on to shift the conversation away from the actual interview, but they're not allowing him to do it. And Mark is a guy who would say this from experience. Mark was fired from CNN for standing up for the rights of Palestinians, whether you agree or disagree with that. On this show, we're pretty neutral on the genocide or the war, whatever you want to call it. It's all valid here. But Mark knows what it's like to be fired because of your views. And especially him, is going to say that it was inappropriate. Piers losing his touch.
He'll do more damage by sneaking some people from the middle and dragging them to his side because they think he's reasonable, and only later find out that he's a sexist, misogynist, Hitler-loving Nazi, right? Or whatever he is, right? That's where the danger comes for me. I'm not saying we should interview controversial people. I'm just saying this particular guy, I feel like we're playing into his interests and his angle.
Yeah, well, Glenn Greenwald, welcome back to Uncensored. You've had Fuentes on your show. What's your view about that issue, about platforming him at all?
Oh, I didn't even consider it to be a difficult question at all. I mean, if you're going to have people on who are responsible for the invasion and destruction of Iraq based on lies, or the incineration of Vietnam, or the destruction of Gaza and the death of tens of thousands of people, and welcome them and treat them like respectable people, Tell me what it is that Nick Fuentes has done remotely as bad as that justifies allowing them to come on and speak, but not him. And whether you like it or not, he does speak for a huge number of people in his generation and even other generations as well, who feel the same kind of anger and frustration with the status quo, with the establishment.
And here's Glenn, who is he's a liberal. He's more of a lefty than a liberal. I like Glenn. He does good work. The Snowden stuff. Immediately shutting down Piers' attempt to shift the conversation to, is it right to platform him? With a very normal, you would expect this argument from Glenn. You interview mass murderers every day. What's the problem? And shifting the conversation back to what makes Piers uncomfortable.
With the kind of dogma that we've been told we have to accept. And there's a lot of people who are angry about it and who rebel against it. And we saw this with Donald Trump on maybe a little bit of a smaller scale, but very much the same pattern. When Donald Trump appeared, everybody was like, oh, he's racist and fascist and he's the misogynist and he's this and that. And no one wanted to grapple with the reason why his message was resonating so much. And to me, it is very similar to Nick Fuentes. Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. Like, he's very informed. He's not just some sensationalist babbling on the internet. And I think the reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid, of a lot of people. And to stick your head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to pretend that this isn't happening because his views are too off, but the people who start wars or are responsible for the 2008 financial crisis, these are respectable people who we treat with respect, like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever. That, to me, is the kind of thing that I think is really distorted.
Yeah, Warren Smith. I'll bring
respond to that.
Well, no, let me bring in Warren Smith first, and then I'll come back to you, Mark. Warren, that really is my feeling about it. Is that you can let these guys like Fuentes and Andrew Tate run riot, and they do already, and they have massive followings, millions and millions of young men.
And so now Piers is in a double bind. The reason he wants to talk about, in my opinion, why having Fuentes on is not inappropriate is because I'm sure he's getting some backlash. Piers is an elite, dude. Piers is buddies with Tony Blair. Piers is a guy who was supposed to come out there and smack Fuentes down. Show him to the elites, say, hey, look, this is a growing movement that you have to take care of. But what happened is he seems to have gotten humiliated. So I'm sure he's getting personal pushback saying, why would you have this guy on? You clearly were not able to handle him. You are our best handler. What happened? That's why he's shifting the conversation. So it's a quadruple apology. And the apology is to the establishment, which Piers defends and belongs to. And that's why he has to wrestle with this question.
Men, I know when I interview Tate, the number of young men who just come up to me in the street to ask about it is off the charts, more than almost any other guest I ever have. So we can either pretend this phenomenon isn't happening, and Fuentes is a phenomenon, whether people like it or not. And I don't hate everything about him. There were elements of that interview where it was a genuinely quite interesting conversation. But there were elements which, either because he wanted to be performative and shocking and attention-seeking, whatever it may be, or because he really believes it, where I felt we saw a pretty dark underbelly of some of his beliefs. Just when somebody just says, I am a racist, and then explains, let me play the clip first, then come to you. You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment. Everybody else is racist.
But earlier in the interview, you got aggrieved at the idea that your father was a racist. You wanted to make emphatically sure.
Yeah, because
he's not.
Because my father doesn't share my same views on that.
So he's the exception to the everyone's a racist.
Well, everybody's a little bit racist.
I thought it was an interesting contradiction there, which he was probably calculating.
Look at all of the filler. Piers does not use filler he's using before he poses this question. I don't know who he's apologizing to. Maybe Tony Blair got on the phone, or Trump, and he was like, you platform this guy and you can't smack him down? The fuck is wrong with you? And now he has to preface this question with a bunch of fluff.
In real time, that having got so exercised about the idea that his father was racist, he then said everyone's racist and there's nothing wrong with it, effectively. But putting that to one side, Warren, this issue of whether you platform somebody like Fuentes, who has these inflammatory views, I think we can all agree they're inflammatory, a lot of his views. Am I, by doing it, am I continuing to fuel this phenomenon in a way that is a negative for society? Or in a free democratic society, should I be entitled to interview who the hell I like, as long as I do my job as a journalist of holding him to account over these things, let other people work it out for themselves?
No, I think it's totally understandable, and I agree that you would have him on. I was in the same position where I was genuinely shocked when I made a knee-jerk response video to something he had said. I was overwhelmed by the response. I was like, I had no idea there were this many people out there that agreed with him. And I had people that I knew actually telling me, no, you're oversimplifying this. And I actually went back and looked at the same clip and realized I had oversimplified.
And so here is Warren Smith excusing Piers Morgan. What's important now is that we get to this portion, because one of the things that really fell flat for me and for a lot of people was the insult of virginity. This is the least sexy time in America. People are not having sex. Young people are not having sex. It could be a problem or not, whatever you want to see it. And Piers is using the insult of virgin, which I haven't heard since high school, especially after COVID. And he is forced to address this misstep, because it is a misstep, man. It's a bad insult, especially for someone claiming the cloak of Catholicism. Look, I'm a postmodern Catholic. I'm a little different. And Andrew Wilson confronts him with it. So let's see what he had to say.
I think it's a perfectly valid question, particularly as I have always said I'm a Catholic. I was raised a Catholic. I had spiritual guidance from Catholic nuns when I was 12 years old. I go to church occasionally. I'm not devout. I'm not there all the time. I don't agree with some of the Catholic Church's views and policies, and I wish they would evolve faster. However, as speaking Catholic to Catholic with him, yes, it's a perfectly valid thing that he could say, I am saving myself for marriage. But if that's all he said, fine. But I would argue that, if you look at him as a Christian, for example, how many of his other views are compatible with being a Christian? Right?
His view on the priesthood, for instance,
racism
was correct.
His Jew baiting, his overt racism, the despicable way he talks about women generally, and so on. None of those things are what you would categorize as being a good Christian. So
I think you can have dogmatic distinctions with him, and that's fine within the confines of the faith. But with the points he brought up, when he said women aren't allowed to be clergy, that's true. They're not allowed to be clergy by the Catholic faith. And when
Here's admitting that he's wrong. Again, a fifth admission.
He said he's saving himself for marriage.
But he also said he
should.
But when he said women, Andrew, when he,
Yeah.
But hang on, Andrew, when he said that women shouldn't be allowed to vote and should stay at home, i.e., shouldn't also have jobs, would you agree with that?
The Catholic Church does not have dogmatic teaching on democracy. They're not like, oh, democracy is the standard.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you whether you
Mm-hmm.
think when he says women shouldn't be allowed to vote and should stay at home and not work.
Well,
and
I
not
think
have a
most
job.
people shouldn't be allowed to vote. I think I would limit suffrage for most people, like our founders did. I think
Well,
it's
would
a
you make
terrible
it
idea
specific
to have
to women?
universal suffrage.
Would you make it
But not
specific
based
to
on
women?
their gender,
Not
Andrew.
specific.
You
Not
wouldn't base it on
specific.
their
Hang on,
gender.
hang on. Let me
But why
finish
would
this
that
with Andrew.
matter? Why would that matter?
Well, because I do think if you say,
limit voting, yes.
I do think after they've waged a 100-year war, women for women's equal rights, to then remove one of the wrenching building blocks of that, which is what the suffragettes fought for, the right to vote.
I don't see what any of what Piers is saying has to do with shaming someone for not having sexual intercourse. Oh, he follows some teachings of the church and he doesn't follow others. Piers just said he does the same thing. So what's the big deal? I really consider it's not even a low blow. It just looks bad for Piers. And trying to shift it to, well, it's not a holistic view of the religion. You're not following the other precepts, but you're not following them either. So who are you to call that out? This is very sloppy work from Piers. Very sloppy. I wonder who the research team was he kept referring to, because this is so easy to poke through. Someone can, dude, if you're saying that you disagree with the church on some things, you're not devout. First of all, who are you to speak about it and the lifestyle? And secondly, are you the arbiter of Catholicism? Because my understanding is that that's the Pope, the vicar of Christ. So what the fuck are we doing here? What are we doing here? It would be less pathetic if he had just not done this show.
I think if you remove that...
Oh, come on. That whole movement was totally AstroTurf. That's one. And
well,
two,
it won them the right
let's
to
just
vote.
point this out. There's a good argument from a Christian perspective to make that the husband, the head of the household, should be the one voting. Within his dogma, that would make sense. So there is a Christian case that you could make for that the head of household, the wife, right now, what goes on in Christian households is that the wife is just doubling the vote of the man, right? So this is not against the purview of Fuentes, and it doesn't even sound particularly misogynistic to me.
Okay,
The 19th
Harry?
Amendment, if he...
Harry, what's your response to that?
And immediately bringing in Harry, who's going to be the weakest of the hyenas on the panel to counter Andrew Wilson, who I don't like, but this was a very fair assessment of Piers's juvenile insults.
Uncensored is proudly sponsored by Cozy Earth. Today's show is sponsored by Oxford Natural.
There's so much to respond to right there. I do want to point out that Andrew was talking about, Nick Fuentes is a good Christian. He's being celibate until marriage because of this reason. That's not what he said in the interview. When he was going back and forth with you on this, Piers, he talked about how women are gross and they get fat and they're ugly, and he wouldn't give his female friend a tampon because they're gross.
It's more of this crap. We have to skip ahead to the final thing that Piers did, which really amazed me, which is that he brought on, doubling down, his buddy, Danny Finkelstein, the guy who made the thing about my mom and my dad were persecuted by Stalin and Hitler, with no argument. Let's see, doubling down. Does it work out for Piers? Dude, this is the sloppiest journalism I've seen from Piers. The sloppiest.
With Nick Fuentes. Danny, I played a clip you sent me. We discussed this. You sent me like a 90-second video clip to play him about your own family's horrific experience at the hands of...
And look, he dressed up today. Wow, the first video we see of this Mr. Finkelstein guy actually dressed appropriately. Piers, then why didn't you have him in the studio when you wanted him to ask the question to Nick Fuentes? This is all Monday night quarterbacking, dude. This is ridiculous. I hate everything says more sloppy as a sloppy seconds. Piers, all right.
Hitler and Stalin from your very powerful book. And I've been struck by two things. One, his utterly dismissive reaction in the moment. But secondly, the horrible pile-on that's been directed at you in the most mocking, awful manner. What's it been like for you?
So that is a bit distressing.
So now we're doing psychotherapy of Piers's friend. Piers is now Dr. Phil, and we're going to analyze how his friend feels after being attacked by the Fuentes fatwa. Okay, by the way, if you're new here, guys, hit that like button and subscribe. It's free. It costs you nothing, and it helps the channel grow.
There's no two ways about it. But I suppose you have to understand that Hitler would never have come to power in the first place if there weren't a lot of people with that mentality, and that's all he's proving. His own response on the programme was, I think, the only thing that he sort of felt he could do. But I think he made a big mistake. I think he thinks, he lived it large by admitting what, kind of just saying to you, yeah, sure, I'm a racist. Sure, I don't like black people. Sure, I don't want women to vote. Sure, I think the Holocaust is fine. He thinks that he's winning out of that. But actually what he's doing ultimately is marginalising himself. So he does produce, as you've experienced and as I have, this kind of deep reaction where people, interestingly, repeated his jokes. So it was all like a bit of a cult. And I noticed that, and that's not nice to receive, but I think it's worth it in order to try to expose the sort of person he is and to try to isolate him from the rest of the American right.
So it's worth Piers losing the debate, this guy being humiliated by his cult, as he calls them, in order to have him lose power with the American right. The mental gymnastics here is ridiculous.
I'm very concerned about, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to go ahead and confront him in the way that you did, which I think was very effective, and why I wanted to join in with that, because I think it's really important that this kind of thinking doesn't go into the mainstream of the right. And he chose the path of deepening rather than widening, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, he did. But it's whether he would see that as a mistake or whether he thinks, as he says, we're a couple of old boomers who just don't.
I'm glad that dude, Fuentes, this is the only insult that works on Piers, as I've said before. He hates being called a boomer. Previously in this, he said he didn't even know what a boomer was. Well, if that's the case, I really struggle in your offense at being called a boomer. A boomer, I think everyone knows what a boomer is. Someone who was born in the baby boom after World War II. Piers is a Gen Xer technically, but he is on the boomer Gen X cusp. And look at how under his skin this got. We saw it on Twitter yesterday that he was angry at this insult. He's bringing it up again to Mr. Finkelstein here. Dude, the boomer narcissism, is that what defeats these wizards like Trump and Piers? Is it just the boomer narcissism? Because it's unique to their generation. And I have no problem. Look, there's good boomers out there, dude. We have good boomers in chat. But this narcissism of, I don't want to be old. Dude, at some point, you're going to be old and it's cool. It's cool to be old. And imagine how under his skin he got by calling him a boomer. I don't know if Fuentes was told that. I knew that from inside sources that you do not call Piers a boomer or he will get pissed. But he's still talking about it.
Don't get it, who don't understand how young American men are thinking right now. And he's much more aware of how they are thinking about issues.
Calling us boomers is like reconfiguring or rebadging his incredible ignorance and childishness as an asset. In fact, what was obvious is he hasn't got the foggiest clue what he's talking about, and he doesn't know anything about. You know, there was one brilliant bit where he said he thought Hitler was cool. He said, "I'm not in favour of genocide." In parentheses, well, you actually are, and so he doesn't really understand anything about it, nor do his supporters. So they kind of dismiss it airily as you know, a laugh and who cares what happened all that time ago, and then calls us boomers as if you or I cared about that.
Yeah.
Right? So
you're talking about it. You spent 2 minutes talking about how you're a boomer and that's actually a good thing. And on this point that he's saying about how it's ancient history, at one point Piers asked Andrew Wilson if Nick Fuentes is tired of talking about World War II and the Holocaust, why does he always talk about the crucifixion of Christ? And that is another misstep, Piers, because there you are saying that World War II and the Holocaust are a religion? Why would you say that? Why would you say that? And Andrew Wilson looks at him and says, dude, it's the founder of his religion. Why would that be in any sense a conflict? And he's just trying to move on from it. That's why it's not even worth playing. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
yes, it's absolutely true. I've lived quite a bit longer than him in order that I've actually read more books, understood more, and know more of what I'm talking about. So he was sensitive about his own ignorance, and it came out in a kind of bragging way. And then, of course, a load of other people pile on to support that as if they're unbothered by it. But he's made a mistake, which he'll live to regret, even though he's 27 now and hasn't lived very long to regret anything.
What's happening?
What's the mistake? This is more psychobabble bullshit. The same thing that he played for Nick Fuentes. Why double down on this guy? This guy is not good at interviews. He's not good at arguments. It's, I'm older than you, so I've read more. That's the argument? Piers, you lost me, man. You lost me.
With the kind of conservative movement in totality in America is fascinating. You're seeing splits within the MAGA movement. You're seeing others now developing, like Fuentes and others outside of MAGA, going very hostile on Trump and so on. You're seeing a lot of stuff going on here. What do you make of it?
So it's really fascinating thing is the split between your two interviewees, Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes.
Yes.
That ultimately, that actually is in fact what I'm really interested in producing. Right? Tucker Carlson has gone wild. Some of the things, as you laughed in his face when he said some of the things about the French. His ridiculous point about Poland, not understanding at all, of course we had to enter the war before Hitler invaded us. Any historical account will show that we couldn't trust him or have a deal with him.
And in fact, we had a contractual obligation to help Poland.
And which we went into not simply because of Polish human rights, but because we understood strategically we had to do that. The American, by the way, did not do that and ended up being dragged into.
There were no human rights before World War II. That didn't exist as a concept. This boomer retcon history, bro, because I always make fun of conservatives for making up history because they do it a lot, but the liberals do it too. There were no human rights before World War II. What the fuck are you talking about? You're supposed to be a historian. That's a very simple, everyone knows this. Anyone who has read any history book, there's a picture of Eleanor Roosevelt with the human rights document after World War II. This World War II mind virus, man. And I don't know if it's because I'm Latino and I just don't get it. What? How are you guys still fighting about this? It's like when Americans still fight about the Civil War. We don't fight about the Venezuelan Civil War. No one gives a shit about it. Why do people do this? This doesn't happen anywhere else outside of England and America, where people are fighting about wars that happened so long ago. Even if the historical conclusion you disagree with, it's history. Russia doesn't do this. Arabs don't do this. Who does this except for America and England? This is ridiculous. Can we escape the 20th century, please? This is insane. This is insane, dude. We are a country that is dominated by fucking World War II discourse all the time. There was also World War I that was pretty interesting. Why don't they talk about that? Or Vietnam or Korea or the Gulf War? Why is it always, why do people care about this? Why is it still relevant? It's World War II. It made America the greatest country in the world by bombing the shit out of everyone and creating the largest economy in history. And then it created the Soviet Union. That's it. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? What is this mind virus, man? The boomers weren't even in World War II.
Into the war anyway. So Tucker Carlson's position was ridiculous, but it's not yet Nick Fuentes' position. His position is, I don't know why you British are that bothered about the Holocaust, but he's not actually in favour of it, which is the Fuentes position. Driving a wedge between those two things, making Tucker Carlson feel he can go that far, but he can't go as far. He can endorse a lot of cranks, but not Nick Fuentes. That is valuable, and I think has been achieved by his interview with Fuentes, your interview with both of them.
I just had a panel discussion about it where one of the panelists argued quite strongly, I shouldn't have platformed him at all, that actually all you end up doing is helping him grow his movement.
Okay, I think that, you know, you and I have to recognise in our different media ways, we don't any longer, because of the way that internet works, have the power just to say, well, let's no one listen to Nick.
And again, what's it called? An excuse for Piers Morgan, for his bosses, whoever they are, probably Tony Blair. No, you're supposed to interview him because we can't contain anything anymore. This was the worst performance by Piers Morgan I've seen in my life.
Say the M word, go on.
I was not amused. I actually found it to be, I know it's WWE. I know that's how we like to look at it on this channel. But this was so pathetic. This was the worst performance I've ever seen from the man. The worst one. I think that officially, man, Nick Fuentes, he can be crowned the Master Wizard, man. I don't give those out like candy, man. The Master Wizards are, at the top it's Baudrillard, then it's like Maduro and Trump, and then it's like Stanley Kubrick, and I guess Nick Fuentes is a fucking Master Wizard now because Piers Morgan has lost his title. Now he's like a Lieutenant Wizard. Because this was pathetic. This was pathetic. And I'm not even a Fuentes fan. We are, I hope we got some value out of this. I know this got a little gossipy, but remember, keep in mind, we're doing analysis. And the analysis here is that it seems that Piers Morgan has lost influence with Trump, which is important because he is a great determinant for elections. He's probably lost influence with Tony Blair. Nicholas Fuentes seems to be the ascendant movement on the right in the U.S. I don't think that movement can win politically. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think that people are going to vote based on his endorsement. I think that Republicans are going to lose the midterms, dude. I think it's over for them. And I think that this further solidifies that MAGA is dead. We have been speculating that for a few weeks now. MAGA is dead, dude. And for better or worse, it's over. This was the nail in the coffin, man. We have seen a lot of signs that MAGA was falling apart, that it was over. And this is the worst of it. I Hate Everything says Thomas Massey wants to get rid of NATO. I saw that, my friend. I don't know how I feel about that yet, honestly. NATO is it's a good scheme to make money off of weapons sales and all that. So it's actually beneficial to the American economy. So I can't hate it. Some people like on the Dave Smith wing, the Thomas Massey wing will say that it provoked Russia. It's possible, but NATO is a good way to preserve the American empire if you are for that. So for America, I don't think it would be good. For the world, I mean, would it let the Chinese further into Europe? Probably. And the Chinese already set up all the telecoms over there, so it's an interesting proposition, but I don't think it'll take off, sir. Let's look at the plugs and let's get out of here, fellas. Here is the Patreon. The first episode was shot about the Truman Show. The King Leo Movie Club is in effect for $5 or $20. You can join and you'll have access to that tomorrow. I'm going to edit it tomorrow morning. We also have the What Would Piers Morgan Do bracelet because he was the master wizard. We still have the bracelets, man, but I'm not wearing mine today because it's in the wash. But I'm going to have to change this to What Would a Postmodernist Do officially because it's not even worth parroting Piers after this performance. Disgusting. And here's the Discord, which is free. The link is, I'll send another link in here in case anyone wants to join where we collaborate. We have Aria and Audio Vibes in there. Audio Vibes wasn't here tonight. Here's the Discord. If anyone wants to join, it's free. We talk about politics, news, film, travel, and we have the Higher End Lounge. Join if you'd like. Let me read these last chats and we'll get out of here. I Hate Everything says, I don't think JD will be able to win the America First crowd. I don't think so either, or not the majority. Dude, JD is, he stayed out of this whole thing. And I think that this is advantageous to him in a way, possibly. Because Nick Fuentes has really pushed this boomer divide. Zoran Mamdani did it from the left, and now Nick Fuentes has done it from the right, where boomers are full on in boomer narcissism mode, and JD can step in and say, hey, look, you may not love me, but at least I'm not a boomer. And that could work. I'm not sure. Nick Fuentes could have unwittingly helped him win the election in that sense, but there's still a lot of time to watch, man. It's interesting because he's not a kingmaker yet, I don't think, but he can definitely throw a lot of gruff your way, and that's not useful. So with that, everybody, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Mr. E, Luaria, Robert, of course, Astroway, I Hate Everything, Rody POV, Scott, Street Cat Munchies. How you doing, sir or ma'am? Iron Hammer. Dude, we had a lot of people here today. Guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing takes half a second. Consider becoming a member on YouTube. It's $2 a month, helps the channel grow. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope we had a good time with this analysis. I know it got gossipy, but it's always a good time. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will be back. We will be back tomorrow. Maybe there's more Fuentes news, or maybe we can finally take a break from this story, which it's the gift that keeps on giving. We'll see. Excuse me. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you tomorrow.
Change the world. My final message. Goodbye. 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 Change the world. My final message. Goodbye.